What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. Joining me this week is Justin Davis, Brian Altano, Sam Claiborne.
That was 1.5 scoops?
Yeah,
including the Brap?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
That's true.
Nailed it.
We've got a great show for you this week. We're going to talk about Resident Evil 7. We're going to talk about that NES Classic, NES Mini. I always forget which one it is in which territory. But first, this is not a political show, and I have no intentions of politicizing the show right now. However, we are recording this on Wednesday afternoon, not 24 hours after the election. It's all anybody can talk about, so it seems a little strange to just completely ignore it. I just want to say video games, one of the very nice things about video games is that they can be an escape from whatever is troubling you, weighing on your mind, and I think whatever your political leanings are, we can all agree this election cycle has been exhausting.
Yep.
So it might be nice to think about something else for an hour, think about something a little bit more fun. Like
hopefully the games you aren't playing are
video games.
exhausting.
Well, yeah. So let's talk
World of
about
Warcraft with Justin. Thank you, David.
Yeah. I'm very concerned with who's going to be the next human president in World of Warcraft.
Crash Bandicoot.
You know what games can also do on that that small note is that they're a great escape, and in the worst times of my life, I'm able to play games.
Sure.
But also with games that are out right now, like Mafia 3, talking to our editor-in-chief Steve Butts about this today, you can play games that take you and put you in the lives of people that are very different than you.
Yeah, for sure.
And get to know those people. And I think, one thing that we can learn on any side of any politic right now is that we all need to know other people better.
I think that is correct. Let's start with listener mail. This one comes from Steven Santana.
I know Steven Santana.
He emailed us at the email
No
address gamescoop@ign.com, just like you can. And he wants to know, what's the deal with games being released on Fridays?
I've been wondering.
Dude, I hate it.
He says, why did games
Nintendo
like
started it.
Mafia 3, Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, Call of Duty release on Fridays this year? Is there an advantage to this release compared to Tuesday?
Yep.
Is it simply to give the game more days on the market before the month is up to perform better? So yeah, games are traditionally released on Tuesdays, but you see this happen.
It's totally shifted to be like 50-50. It's
Yeah,
not
it
even
is this fall.
tradition
This
anymore.
fall is I've always assumed, I've never actually known, it's a great question. I thought shooters was just the conceit of get it, then that's your weekend. Like,
Right.
the Call of Duty weekend and the Battlefield weekend. Mafia is the outlier. That one I'm like, I don't really, Mafia and Pokemon.
Dishonored.
And Dishonored,
Well,
that's
yeah,
right.
Nintendo often does Sundays.
Yeah.
I think,
Well, the Sundays kind of stopped now,
Have
and
they?
they do Fridays a lot now.
Okay.
a lot of this is like very old holdovers from, from my own life and our lives here, the 80s and 90s, where we're like, movies come out Fridays, albums come out Tuesdays,
Yeah.
and now
Although-
movies come out like midnight on Wednesday night, Thursday night.
Yeah.
But it's like
Albums
Thursday
are
at 8
Fridays
p.m.
now.
and it's like, that's not
Fridays
even,
now.
they're not
Yeah.
even trying anymore.
Nintendo's been putting games out on Fridays and also Sundays for years, which has been really
You know
weird.
what's crazy? There's when you wanted a video game when we were kids, there was no release date. There's barely a release window, and then you'd be like some kid would be like, yeah, like in my state, Zelda 2 is out, and then some other kid's state there wouldn't even be copies of it.
Well,
for
there
it.
was that
Yeah.
thing with Super Mario Brothers a couple years ago where Nintendo couldn't track the actual release date of that game in Japan. Like,
Oh, the original
Mario
Super
The
Mario
original
Bros.
no one knows when it came out.
In the United States.
Yeah.
In
United
Japan, they know, but here,
Yeah.
not at
yeah,
all.
it's so strange.
That's why I think it was Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is one of the earliest cases of having
Yeah.
a set worldwide launch date.
Yeah.
And it was like a big deal for them to coordinate.
And I think there's posters with it because I remember having one on my wall.
Sonic
It was
Tuesday.
Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat did the
Tuesday.
same thing, I
Tuesday.
believe, the original
Yeah,
when it came to
which is-
consoles.
yeah.
You definitely I think all of us grew up, maybe not you, Brian, but we all grew up in small towns. And for me, it was especially like that. Like, the game would just, everyone else has Mortal Kombat 3, but it's just not in Iowa yet. Like, it just doesn't exist. And I go to the game store, and the guy's like, I'm like, do you have Mortal Kombat 3? No. Isn't it supposed to be out? He's like,
Yep.
And I'm like, when are you going to get it? And he's like,
Yeah.
And I'm
And
like,
to make things worse now, for Dishonored, if you pre-order the game, you get it Thursday.
you get it
Yeah.
a day early.
So it's like
But
this
only at some
mashed release
retailers.
date. Yeah, and some retailers. That's right, because we just looked into this. And then, of course, in Australia, it's out at 4 a.m. the day before because that's midnight for them.
Yep.
So there's this just totally screwed up release window for things. And then EA is doing the thing
Yeah.
where you can play part of the game early.
You get early
there's-
access 3
there's-
days early.
Totally, yeah.
And the preloading is completely convenient for digital games. It sucks to have a game be out and then have to download the 50 gigabytes or whatever. So I totally get it's a nice feature, but it is strange that I have the game.
Yeah.
The game's on
I
my
know,
computer,
yeah,
but you
that's
have to
frustrating.
wait
What?
2 days.
It's
to
like
be-
scrambled code or something.
just to wait for it to
Yeah,
unlock
but then
and be playable.
and this gets weird. But then if you were to download it the day it was available then you'd be like, I want an early version of
Yeah.
that, and you just keep kicking back time
Yeah, for
until
sure.
forever.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I get the preloading. It's just a funny. It's just
Yeah.
a weird side effect of like 2016.
You know
I
what?
mean, I think it's good because video games coming out on Tuesday sucks. Like,
Yeah.
why would you
Well,
want
it
to?
is kind of it's like a school night. And like,
Yeah, like Fridays are great because you're like you can get out of work
Yeah,
on
that's
Friday or take off on Friday if you're at a job where your boss doesn't care, and then you go get the game and you leave and you have a 3-day weekend with the game instead of like, oh, it's Tuesday, it's 7:30, I'm home, I'm gonna cook dinner, and then it's like 8 o'clock and I start playing my game, go to sleep at midnight or 1 a.m. and then go back to work the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they settled on Tuesday originally for music and games.
Yeah.
But it's not like a hard rule. Like obviously they can release the game whenever they want. It's just more convenient if everyone knows when video games come out. So I always, like I said, assumed when a big game is released on Friday, it's just like make it more special. It's like this game is special. It has a special release date.
So you still have stuff like the PlayStation Store updates every Tuesday, the Nintendo Store every Thursday. I believe the Xbox is every Wednesday.
Well, is that still the case? Like that was the case last generation, but I feel like we got away from like Xbox Live Wednesdays a little bit. Maybe it's still a thing. I guess I'm not sure.
So for Tuesday, they have something called like the PlayStation blog, written by Ryan Clements, former IGN guy.
Love that guy.
Rest in peace.
Great guy.
Oh.
Okay? Apparently not. He puts up this thing called The Drop, which is all the games coming out on Tuesdays and at like 10 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
The site, the store updates and all these things are there. Now, some games can get away around that and kind of drop on a Friday or a Sunday. Nintendo sends out that press release every Thursday morning. They're like, here's all the games coming to our eShops. You know, these days it's not much, but it's thought that counts.
Or it can be like Steam or the App Store where it's just screaming at you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just
You just not. I don't even know what Steam it's like, and the App Store as well, right? Every time you check it, like another game goes live, right?
The App Store refreshes its like storefront, like its featured thing every Thursday. So Thursday's the App Store's day, but there is stuff coming out all week.
Yeah.
Oh, so but that's when they reprogram their homepage.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I have something to vent about. You reminded me.
Oh,
this
good.
drove me crazy this week. Gears of War 4. There's a new thing when you get games where you can download the game, and while it's downloading, it's like it gets to a certain point, and you can play a little bit of that game. I love that. And Battlefront, they kind of like made that a little bit goofy. They just give you one level to play while the game is loading. There's games now that have that feature, and they just completely are abandoning it in a terrible way, because in Gears of War, you load the game, it's like, oh, it's ready to play now. It says ready to play.
Yep.
You load the game, and then it just takes you to the title screen, and it shows you the counter on the title screen.
That's exactly what Mafia does.
So by play, they just mean load the title screen.
That
yeah, and there
sucks.
might be a tutorial somewhere.
I guess they're technically
like-
launching the app. But
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just letting you
That's so
see the
weird
title
because I've
screen.
noticed on like
I thought we'd gotten so far.
Well,
I know, that's so
Battlefront did a good, like having one level playable is like a totally good, like, all right, we have to download this 40 gig still, but we're going to give you something so that you don't need to wait.
Yeah, that was
you know?
like
a playable game.
Yeah, it was like playing Perfect Dark without the expansion pack or something. On PSN now, they do this thing where you see this bar, and instead of being one long bar, it's like a small one and then a really long one. So you can fill this one up here, and you're like, I can get in there and I can start, and then whatever they give you is there. But yeah, if it's just a title screen, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully, what games like big games like Mass Effect Andromeda, when it's released, hopefully they'll load the character creator first.
Yeah.
That's a smart
and
idea.
then let you like create your character while the game downloads in the
I mean, you
background.
That's a good
just
idea.
have to partition. Yeah, you just have to set up your download in an
Yeah.
interesting way. Like probably with a couple gigabytes, you could play the first level of Gears.
well,
of
like
War.
have us four
We don't know.
non-technical, like, how easy?
yeah.
Come on, you lazy game.
But the thing is that they put the option in and advertised it. So that's why I feel there's an obligation to sort it out. If it was never in front of me that way, then that'd be fine. But the fact that it says play this now.
playable. There's-
I actually love that character creator idea because
that's
usually when that comes up, I kind of rush through that process
Yeah,
to get
to play
the
the
game.
game.
But if I'm like, I have 4 hours, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna take my sweet time with
Totally.
that, dude.
What stubble
Yeah,
level should we
brilliant.
have? The ready to play thing can especially trip you up if the games don't download that fast on PSN for me. And so I was downloading Mafia, and it was like borderline, like, should I start to play it or should I go to bed? And I'm like, okay, it's going to be ready to play in like 28 more minutes, so I'll just wait. And so then I wait and I fire it up, and then it's the title screen, and then it's like, yo, you got to wait.
Yep, you gotta go
And I'm
to
like,
bed.
ah,
Oh, so the ready to play was 28 minutes in even.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Video gaming in 2016.
Dude, nightmare.
What about the cartridges? You could just blow into them and they'd work every time.
Well, you can never start up the games and play them. And then the second time I played Gears of War, 6 gigabyte install
Even the games, I
That's,
don't know.
man, and I read Dishonored
update,
2
you
has a 9
for an
gig day
update
one
that I
update.
don't want to play online or anything. I just want to finish the
But
dang
this is why I
campaign.
love Titanfall had an 89 megabyte day one update, which is nothing. That's a picture of the update. That's a JPEG.
Yeah.
JPEG. That's great.
I don't
Got a
even
wave
know-
file.
But like I have a Gears of War 4 Blu-ray. I have the disc and I put it in my machine and it's
Yeah.
like, it's gonna spend 2 hours downloading this
yep.
thing. I'm like, why?
Why?
What is going on?
Titanfall 2's loading was really weird because like you get to the title screen and it's like you can play the game. It's like a counter is going up and it's like you can play the game at 47. It just seems totally arbitrary. It's like, when the counter gets to 47,
Well, that's like those loading bars that are like 1, 2, 3, 75, 76, 77, 78, 91. It's like, what are you doing? How arbitrary
Nobody's
is this?
ever solved the loading bar.
No, it makes no sense.
On no operating system. Like I used to think Macs were better, but you get the thing where it's like, like 5 minutes to download, 5 days to download,
Yeah.
17 minutes to download.
75 year.
I want to start like an old man column where like we can put a man on the moon, but we can't
Can't
blank.
solve loading bars.
We can't
man.
fix that loading bar. Or like the loading
Yeah.
bar fills, and then you just get a second loading bar.
Oh my God.
Ah.
Installing is the new second loading bar in
Yeah.
games.
Yep.
Oh,
Right
dude,
now.
Xbox
installing.
Xbox installs are
Because you
insane.
download, like, just include it as the whole
Yeah.
install bar. Instead, it's
one
like
bar.
download. Like my download's done.
No, now
it's
you
like
gotta install
installing.
Oh God, I hate that. Just
Wii
do
U
it.
does that also.
Yeah, hide it. Do it all at once so I don't even see it.
Yes.
It's like bosses that can replenish their life bar.
Totally.
I don't like it.
No,
hate that.
the red life bar.
There's a second life bar behind the first life bar, and you're like,
yeah,
all right.
yeah. The yellow one goes down first, then orange, then red.
You know what's going to fix this is the Nintendo Switch with its
yeah?
cartridges.
Yeah, yeah.
Until you have
It's
to
over.
download
That's pretty
them somewhere.
interesting. It's pretty interesting if they could solve convenience of startup for that.
I think
Yeah.
it's crazy. I love that it's happening. That we're gonna get big HD video games on cartridges.
Yeah, it's kind of
next
nuts
year.
to think that there's going to be like Skyrim on like a 3DS shaped card.
So weird.
There was a time, I know we got to move on, but when World of Warcraft first came out, I still lived in Iowa. It was in beta or whatever, like in 2013, 2003, 2004, and I was still on dial-up. And I'm trying to download World of Warcraft, which, back then it was much, much smaller, but still multiple
On
gigabytes.
dial-up.
On dial-up. And it was going to take I think it was going to take a day and a half.
Yep.
It was going to take like 30 hours to
Well, yeah.
download. And so
What if
was,
it gets interrupted?
Like if
Yeah,
someone
I
calls your house,
Exactly.
your
Well,
phone's plugged
We
in.
had a second phone line. We had a second
yeah.
internet phone line.
Ballin'.
So
So internet.
we worked it out that it was going to be faster and easier for me to go to my friend's house who had broadband, download it there, chunk up the game onto like 5 CDs, and put it into 5 RAR files, burn it onto CDs, and then drive back to my own house.
Did it work?
Yeah, it totally worked.
Isn't that just bootlegging the game? Oh no, you have the
No,
account
it was the
system.
alpha. It was a beta. It was either open beta or closed beta. I was already doing a little bit of games journalism
That's
stuff
amazing.
at that time and had access. And since the game was on dial-up, it would chug and crash in big cities. Not because there was too much going on in the game, but because there was too much data, player data, being sent back and forth.
Jeez.
I had to avoid. I couldn't go to Crossroads in the Barrens.
You couldn't go to where? Oh, just in the game.
The Chronicle of Book unfolds.
Yeah. Well, that was way pre-book. But
His
Book.
character is named Book. He got the book.
Which is
account.
like
I'm just catching
it's
Brian.
significant
up.
because
for
it's
listeners,
such
Brian
a
hasn't
simple.
heard this. We talk about this sometimes.
Got it. I got very
Yeah.
confused.
when I was really into World of Warcraft 6 or 7 years ago, I used to spend hours in the character creator just trying every single, I'd be like, face, eye, eyeball, blind, sight, hair, mouth, teeth, and try every single word. I ended up getting the name Book, and I got the name Day, and I got the name, I have a few other, North. And you would try.
For those
Wow.
listening, Brian just had a slack jaw.
Yeah, I just paused with my mouth open like I was catching something.
One out of every 1,000 words, I'd be like, okay, I got that name. Then I just sat on it.
What
for
do you mean got that name?
I
can,
reserved it.
reserve
No one else
I
can have
had
that
So
name.
no one could use
That's
it.
like
Yeah.
twitter.com/
like-
/ Brian.
Out of the millions of World of Warcraft players, he's the only one with the name Book.
Well, there's
Oh,
one
wow.
per server, but
One per
even,
server, okay,
even
sorry.
so, yeah. And then I squatted on those names for a decade, and now that I'm playing the game again, I'm leveling up.
I thought you were going to say you sold them for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I wish.
yeah.
Warcraft.com/book.
Totally.
All right, moving on. Resident Evil 7 coming out next year, early next year, January, I believe.
First person.
Capcom expects it to sell 4 million copies at launch. I can give you some context, but does that strike you as
That's a huge amount. It's half as many as Tomb Raider is supposed to sell to be a success.
That feels
and
low.
It didn't meet the 10 million mark.
Right.
It feels low-ish to me for Resident Evil, but it's an experimental game and a very different direction for the franchise.
what do you think is the best-selling Resident Evil game?
1.
5.
1 or 4.
It's 5.
Yeah.
Ooh,
You're right,
wow. How'd you get that right?
It is the best-selling game in the series with 7.1 million copies.
Okay.
It is Capcom's best-selling game of all time.
Ooh.
The highest-selling Capcom game is
No,
Resident Evil 5.
What about Monster Hunter?
No, it outsells Monster Hunter. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so
Sam's very skeptical.
so they're measuring their expectations a little bit. They think Resident Evil 7 is not going to do Resident Evil 5 numbers. They think 4 million at launch. Resident Evil 6 enjoyed 6.6 million in sales over its lifetime.
It's really big.
I'm sorry to everybody that bought that game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why they're lowballing 4 million for
Yeah,
7.
I guess so, huh?
It's because that was 6.6 million people who went, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to
That was our review score. Just
What?
said what?
The whole article, just what?
I don't know why that's so funny.
I don't either.
The top 10
Warcraft.com/what?
I've got the top 10 best-selling Capcom games ever here. So Resident Evil 5 is their best-selling game. Resident Evil 6, second best-selling.
DuckTales.
Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo,
What?
not Genesis.
That was a number 3?
Turbo edition.
6.3 million copies.
Oh
of that
my
game.
god.
Yeah. Then Resident Evil 2.
Were you saying these are in the U.S.?
Nope, this is worldwide. This is worldwide sales.
Wow.
Don't you think that seems a little low for Street Fighter 2?
But only
Just the
SNES.
SNES version.
Oh, just
Because I had the
6.3
championship
million.
Even that
edition
seems a
on
little low.
Genesis.
I don't know, man. That's a lot.
And this all comes from
the
Capcom.
SNES had, I think, 40 million total console sales.
Yeah, that's like the
Yeah, that's pretty good. 1/8 of them.
Yeah, that's,
Well-
that's a big deal.
There are other versions of Street Fighter 2 released on Super
Yeah.
Nintendo too.
There's Super Street Fighter 2.
Resident Evil 2 sold 5 million copies.
Damn.
Then their fifth best-selling game is Monster Hunter Freedom 3 on PSP, 4.9 million. So like
What?
that's
Wow.
the high mark for Monster Hunter.
On PSP.
Yeah.
Manhunt.
Is that
Yeah.
amazing?
Yeah, that's
The
amazing.
next 3 games are all 3DS entries: Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, Monster Hunter X, Monster Hunter 4. They all sold 4.1 million copies.
I
So
need
like
s-
the audience is like rebuying, the exact same audience is rebuying that game over and
Yeah.
over.
Well, I mean, there's
Yeah.
one of these like Monster Hunter feels like a game I would be into. You know, I could like grindy games sometimes like World of Warcraft, but I don't know where to. I need a Jose Otero or an IGN.com to be like, all right, look, just like buy this game. This is what you need to do.
I did this video with Jared Petty, who's regularly on this show for IGN, where he basically gave me a crash course in training for
Yeah.
that game. Super obtuse, but I totally got it by the end. Fought my first epic battle that I ended up losing at the very end. It
He
happens.
says Bloodborne is a good analog for Monster Hunter.
I could see that.
That's a total Jared answer. That's
I could
not.
see
I
that.
want to know what Bloodborne. I want to know what Monster Hunter game to play.
yeah.
Oh, I couldn't tell you that, but I could tell you that you might get into it. It didn't stick with me, but
Yeah.
I see now why people love
Or
it.
just like there's other. That's just one of those franchises. There's like 5 or 6 franchises. Like I just kind of missed, and I need someone to like cut through the noise
Yep,
and
yep.
be like, look, just play. This.
Yeah, yeah.
Play Dragon Quest V. Like whatever.
Number 9 is Street Fighter 2 Turbo on Super Nintendo with 4.1 million copies.
Oh, so that wasn't even. It was Street Fighter 2 and then Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yeah, which combined sold over 10 million copies.
Yeah, man.
And then number 10 is Monster Hunter Freedom Unite on PSP with 3.7 million. So, if Resident Evil 7 sold 4 million copies, it would become Capcom's 10th best-selling game ever.
So Damon, Resident Evil 4 is not in the top 10?
No.
That's incredible because
Because they locked it behind GameCube first.
That's is right. Yes. The weird thing.
By
This
platform.
is all from Capcom's site, and some games they bundle up all the different versions, like Resident Evil 5 and 6. But then Resident Evil 4 is split up.
Yeah.
For some reason. So I think if you combined the GameCube, PS2, and Wii versions, and then
GameCube,
like the
PS2,
new
Wii,
downloads,
PC,
I'm sure it would be much
yeah.
better.
And then they up-resed it for the
They
contemporary
up-resed it
system.
for last gen. They up-resed
Yeah.
it for this gen.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you combined all those different versions, it would
There's
be
a
much
mobile
higher.
What
port.
about, seriously, what about like Mega Man 2?
Exactly.
That's been
So-
on lots of systems.
So
and
check
stuff.
this out. So no Mega Man is in the top 10.
Yeah. Bionic Commando.
Their best-selling Mega Man 2 is the best-selling Mega Man game. 1.5 million copies.
I
So
believe
like
it.
that's like the high mark for
But
Mega Man.
everybody's played Mega Man 2.
Yeah, but the mid
I'm just
80s
saying.
were like a different era. Like,
That's it.
was,
That's
for
the
a
high
game to
mark.
break a million was.
Yeah.
That's the high mark for Mega Man, and it's Capcom's 42nd best-selling game.
So that puts it in perspective when the fans are constantly like Capcom
Mega
doesn't
Man.
care about Mega
It's like,
Man. It's like,
dude,
well,
nobody
neither
buys
do you.
Mega Man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Dino Crisis outsold Mega Man 2 by a large margin.
Oh, Oh, that's hard to hear.
Is that just
2.4
is that a
million.
light gun game?
No.
No, it's
It's
a Resident Evil.
with dinosaurs.
Resident Evil Dinosaurs.
Whoa.
We were just
Okay,
talking
I've
about,
never
we were
played
just
it.
talking about Dino Crisis today.
Dino Crisis is a cool game.
We're gonna
Yeah.
make a list of franchises that need to come back.
I
What do you mean? We already did that list. Did we? Yeah, I just did that list like a month ago.
Oh no, but not that. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be from that specific era. Like
Okay.
I got a few.
You're right. We did do that list.
I got a few drinks in during a weird night last gen, and I tried to buy Dinosaur Hunter and or Dino Crisis, whatever it's called. Dinosaur Hunter.
Dinosaur
I would play that. And that game does not hold up.
Dino Crisis.
Really?
Yeah, I mean the Resident Evil games in a weird way kind of do, but I think that one's even more sort of janky and.
All right, save it for
messy.
Dinosaur Week.
Yeah, we're bringing that back.
We're not.
Yeah, Sam. Ghosts and Goblins on NES outsold Mega Man 2.
No.
1.6 million copies from Ghosts and Goblins.
It
NES.
was out
Oh my
before
God.
at a time where there was less out.
Yeah, it's
There
just
were just
crazy.
fewer games to
Wow.
buy.
Yeah,
It's like this is this month's video game.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah.
But still, those numbers just seem overall. I'm just surprised they're low for NES.
Yeah. Wow.
Moving on. NES Classic is out this week. Finally.
Is it?
I mean,
Can you
We
buy
can't buy it.
it has a release date at least.
When's the release date?
Friday.
And
Friday,
we
the
still
11th.
there's clearly no pre-order. So there's going to be some funny business with that.
So in America-
like it might be an exclusive at a retailer or something.
Target did online pre-orders for it, but outside of that, in the U.S., there hasn't been any way to buy it online. People are seeing it pop up on like Walmart's website.
What if we could walk into GameStop and it's just like NES control decks stacked up? That would
That'd be
look
great.
really cool. wouldn't
That'd be
it?
great.
bizarre.
I'd be into that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd pick one up on Friday.
that'd be really neat. We should walk over there. We'll check it out.
It comes packed with 30 NES games. But one of the games
And a
that's-
poster.
and a poster apparently. One of the games that's not included, I don't think, is Blaster Master.
Yeah.
That's not on the list, right?
No.
But not to worry, because Blaster Master Zero is coming to 3DS this spring.
Really?
You heard about this?
No.
They're like remaking the original Blaster Master on current gen handheld
my
hardware.
God.
Still with pixel art and everything.
Yeah,
though.
but an
It looks like
updated look, like
16-bit-ish.
Shovel Knight
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah.
pixel
Oh,
art.
that's
Yeah.
great.
So is it a remake or a sequel? Or
They're remaking the original game with new areas, bosses, weapons,
Okay,
and
so
new
it's like a-
exploration mechanics.
I'll be honest with you. If they had added no new areas, I would not have noticed because I've never finished that game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that game's
Impossible.
way
it
too
gets
hard.
super
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, Blaster Master is a game that you played for 40 minutes at your friend's house, and then for
no.
20 years you've been like, I love Blaster Master. But
Yeah.
it's like, do you really
Yeah.
love Blaster Master?
I've gone back to try to play that, and like even as an adult, where I'm like, I could even open up guides and stuff like that, and I'm like, where am I? How do I
Yeah.
get back to
No,
my ship?
I owned Blaster Master, but I never beat it. But like the music is
You were
burned
the
into my
friend.
Yeah.
my
Dun, dun,
brain.
dun,
Yeah.
dun,
Yeah, I was the
dun,
friend
dun, dun,
that owned it. Yeah.
It sounds like Metroid music.
It does.
we had I had a friend that had Blaster Master, and what always tripped us up is when we would play Nintendo games at each other's houses. Is I had Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and he had Punch Out. And they're like, what? Like, is there a sequel? Like, because you're a kid, you don't know.
Yeah.
There's no internet. And I'm like, did they make a sequel that has Mike Tyson in it? What is it? And then we're like, oh wait, it's the exact same game. And then we
Without
made it to the
Mike
end.
Tyson.
Well, then we made it to Mr. Dream
Yeah.
on his version, or on whichever one of us didn't have the Mike Tyson version. We're like, who the hell's this guy?
That's nuts.
And wait,
oh,
this
it's
guy
just Mike Tyson.
looks just like Mike Tyson, but he doesn't, but he's white.
Yeah.
You know
There's
what's
a,
crazier
uh,
is you know who the main boss of Master Blaster is?
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
There's a game that was made for NES that is a sequel to. It was made as a sequel to Mike Tyson's Punch Out. It's called Power Punch 2, and there's no Power Punch 1. It's called Power Punch 2, and you fight aliens in it, and you have like the wireframe Little Mac. It's a really rare game.
Is it good?
No, it was made by wasn't made by Nintendo directly,
Oh.
and was like kind of a spin-off that feels unfinished and just terrible.
Weird.
And if you ever come across that cartridge, pick it up. It's very hard to find.
There's weird, like
Not
the
expensive,
Punch
but
Out.
hard to find.
The Punch Out Mike Tyson Punch Out thing, like video games were just different back then. Like there weren't as many people paying attention. Like I have a cart that's just Back to the Future 2 and 3
Yep.
in one cart.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? Like you would never do that
Yeah.
in 2016.
Yeah, that game also made
Lego
no
Star Wars
sense.
kind of does that.
That's true, but it's even like Back to the Future. I had Back to the Future 2 and 3, played it all the time as a kid. Never played Back to the Future 3 because you had to do some weird shenanigans to get to the Wild West in that game.
Yep.
Really?
That game was a
You
wreck.
can't even just select the one?
No.
That game was made by Japanese developers who had clearly never seen anything more than key art from both of those movies.
Did you ever play Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Yep, another bad game.
It was like a Fester's Quest
Yep.
knockoff type thing. It's good.
This email comes from Nick. Speaking of the NES Classic, he says, I'm strongly considering picking up an NES Classic. My only concern is that a year from now, Nintendo will release the new NES Classic with longer controller cords, additional games,
I don't know if that's gonna happen.
Do you think this is possible?
Yeah.
No, you don't think so?
No.
No, I totally.
Sam says no, Justin says yes.
Yeah, totally. There's going to be a version that's got 50 games instead of 30, and it's got a longer
With a
controller.
longer cable.
Yeah.
I don't know, guys.
I don't know.
that's gonna happen.
The entire universe at this point predicates on should I buy a thing now that's available or should I wait for a better thing? That is literally every purchase you can possibly make right now. So if you want it, just
Not
get
pizza.
it. Not pizza. Pizza's good.
Sorry,
There's
just
Get it now while you can.
Just
But then they had that
Sports
stuffed-
outlawed.
They had that stuffed crust pizza.
Yeah, that's a flash in the pan.
made it
No pun
backwards.
intended.
I'm pretty well. Okay, I'm not. Never mind.
Okay,
Anyway,
we did it.
What about pepperoni stuffed crust?
maybe the SNES Classic would be more likely than a
That's a different
new
story,
NES Classic.
I think that's cool. I mean, the idea of us having a first of all, how weird is it that the PS4 Pro and the NES Classic are coming out within 24 hours of each other? It's
great.
Like 2 new consoles are
Wow.
launching this week,
2 new consoles.
right? Isn't that great?
Why is that so funny?
Because one's not a console.
Yes,
one's
it is. It's a video
stupid
game
back-end
system.
toy.
It's not a toy.
I'm not excited about the NES Classic. I'm
Why
just
not?
gonna
It
put
is-
because I have all the games.
Okay.
I think the NES has better controllers and longer cords.
Okay.
And you can get NESs and play those games really easily.
Sam-
I think it's a silly Atari flashback like Pac-In. I don't
All
think it
you're
makes
really
sense.
saying is that you have
like
better
the HDMI cable.
you have better self-control than other people. That's it.
Well,
Dude,
I want the poster so bad though.
I'll give you my poster.
Yeah, you can have my
You can have my poster.
I'm gonna get 3
What is the
posters.
poster?
Yeah.
What is the poster?
It's it's just a CRT television, an NES, the ROB just kind of like placed in like a grainy photo.
Okay.
Like posters used to be.
Why don't you? Isn't that just like your house? Why do you
Yeah.
need that poster?
I love those old. You know, when you'd get an NES, you'd get a poster
Yeah,
with
yeah.
all the games.
Yep.
And those always went up in bedrooms. And like sometimes I find those like packed in boxes with a bunch of old games, and they'll
Yep.
have like tack holes in them. They make me really happy.
If I give you that poster,
Each game got.
if I give you that poster, you have to promise you put it up in your bedroom and you put it up crooked.
What about on the ceiling?
Like just like,
Oh, the
just-
ceiling poster.
I would do the ceiling above my desk.
and you need
well,
a you need
and then I can
like
be
a
like-
felt pennant that just says sports on it or something
We'll-
like that.
Listen, we'll put it up in this room. on the
Yes.
ceiling.
Yeah, we're gonna put it
and
up
we
in
won't
the
tell
ceiling up
anybody.
here, yeah.
Perfect.
And we'll
You
see
won't
how
see
long
it
it
on
lasts.
camera. Just trust us.
No, you'll just see
Assuming
us like
we can
this.
buy this thing.
Yeah, totally.
Nick also asks, anyone know why we can't get Contra on the NES Classic?
Dude, that game's been like such an enigma because we've gotten Super C and we've gotten Super Contra for the Super Nintendo on Virtual Console.
Contra
like,
3, the Alien
and
Wars.
Contra 3, yeah.
Isn't Super C on the
Super
NES
C's on
Classic?
NES. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on the Classic.
The
yeah.
Classic.
Which
Yeah,
makes
but not
no
the original
sense. Like
Contra.
no one looks back
But
on Super
Contra
C. Like,
just came out in the arcade version on PS4.
I know, but it's the arcade version. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Do you know like
is not
you know in the second level in that game in the arcade version,
It's actually 3D.
you have to like run left and right. It's
Yeah,
a
you
maze.
choose.
Like you don't just sit there and go straight. And
Yeah.
Anyway, Mike Tyson's the boss of that game too.
Yep.
Yeah.
This next email is from Denzel.
Hey, Denzel.
Washington?
Yep. Denzel Washington.
Had some free time on set. I thought I'd send you guys an email.
He says, with Nintendo releasing the NES Mini, why do you think Sega has not cashed in on a Genesis Mini yet? I'd love to play classics like Streets of Rage and Vector Man, but want to hear your thoughts.
They have.
Yeah, there is. Isn't
so
there? They did
that
it first.
totally exists.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was actually made by Sega or not.
Well,
but
you
like,
have
They
it on your
licensed it
desk.
out.
Yeah.
Right now.
So I have some bad news
it
about
totally
that one.
exists.
Yeah, so we got a like a review unit for that. We did an unboxing of it on Up at Noon. I handed it to Max Scoville and he brought it to his Halloween party, and we were geeking out because it comes with wireless controllers, and we're like, "This is so awesome!" You have to point them directly
Yeah.
at the system to get them to work. So if you're playing Mortal
That's
Kombat, and you're
TV
like, "Wow,
remote
good
style.
moves." Yeah,
That they had those back in the day.
that's so crazy.
NES even had those, the TV remote, like direct line of sight controllers.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
it's
like how the old like light guns worked and stuff like that. Like,
These like plug and play
Kind of.
Sega Genesis collections have existed for years.
Well,
they
pl-
include like 25, 30 games.
Yeah.
There's been knockoff plug and plays, like they're always at the islands in the mall. And I think the Genesis one is not made by Sega. I think they licensed out the
Yeah.
Genesis name to some slightly more reputable manufacturer to make like a real actual.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
one of the cool things I saw that the same company's making, they also make an Atari, and they just sent me
Flashback.
one. Yeah, the Flashback. They sent me a new one that's like a portable Atari one, but they're making that for Genesis as well. So it's almost like a cartridge-less
Nomad?
Yeah,
It
which
has
is
a
kinda
screen?
Cool. It's got a screen. So it's just a handheld
Does it look
Genesis.
like an Atari?
No,
With a screen?
this one looks like a Genesis. The original one looks like an Atari, kind of. I'll show. It's on my desk. But.
It's like you turn the console on its side and you can play the screen.
But it made me go, I really want
how
a
do the
Game Boy.
joysticks?
I want like a Game Boy Classic now, right? Like if you it made like a Game Boy Pocket that had like 30
dude.
games on it and Pokemon. They could, interact wirelessly with other ones.
Yeah, you're just
That would be
describing
pretty
like
cool.
a Game
Yeah.
Boy though.
Yeah, I know.
Well, yeah, but if they're all pre-installed
Yeah.
and they just work,
And it's cheap,
Maybe you
like-
could update the screen so it's not as blurry.
If the Classic had a cartridge slot, it'd be really cool. It would bring back this culture of like collecting and finding old games. I just think it'd be really
Yeah.
I knew a guy that had one of these, plug and play consoles a decade ago before they were like a big thing, and it had like 6 games on it. It had like Pac-Man and like a few Namco games.
Yeah,
on it,
those old
Pac-Man,
Namco
Galaga,
ones. Those are big.
With a little joystick, and he
I like
was the
those.
overnight DJ at our college radio station. And he'd go on his break. He'd play his 3 songs, and then would play Pac-Man or whatever, and then would not realize that he was back on air. And so you'd often hear him be like, "Whoa, okay, hey guys, that was so and so," because he got too wrapped up in like Galaga.
in
whatever he was
Bosconian or
playing.
pole position.
That sounds like a commercial for that thing in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
But for people that are looking for a new Sega Genesis,
Scoop.
Sam, don't you have some information that might be of interest to
The
them?
Sega Genesis is back in print. You can get a Sega Genesis plays cartridges
Whoa.
if you live in Brazil.
Oh.
What?
I don't live
If
And
you
it's
are
being
Brazilian.
made and manufactured in Brazil. Now, that kind of went around the internet today as if it was big news, but the Master System was just back in print like 6 years ago. And that is because those 2 systems are still very popular in Brazil.
What's going on down there?
There's an alternate history, and here's what happened.
Screen blurs.
In the late 80s, Brazil, well, since the 60s, Brazil, I was researching this a lot today, and I'd always heard about it. I wanted to read about it. But Brazil only allowed, they didn't allow electronics imports, right? So if you made a system in Brazil, you could sell it at the Brazil prices, whereas like the NES, when it came out, was, $1,000. But there, if they made a Genesis in Brazil, it would be like regular price, still probably consumer level expensive prices.
Just due to like crazy taxes and
Yeah,
whatever.
so
like,
Sega sorted that out with a company called Tech Toy there. If you
Crazy
grew up in
taxes
Brazil,
came to Dreamcast.
if you grew up in Brazil, the Nintendo logo would be as recognizable to you as this logo, Tech Toy. And Tech Toy made a Master System, and it was hugely popular. Then they brought over the Genesis, and it was popular all the way through the Dreamcast. The Tech Toy put out those things in Brazil and manufactured them there.
And so the Master System had this like life into the 90s. So later games that we played on like 16-bit consoles would come to the 8-bit Master System.
What?
Yes,
Like
including
Mortal Kombat, Street
Mortal
Fighter
Kombat
2,
3
Mortal Kombat
came
3.
out in 1999 on the Master System.
And so
Yeah.
they
like
made
a
an 8-bit
Portuguese probably language, Mortal Kombat 3. Like,
and completely licensed.
Was it like de-resed?
It looks terrible. But Street
No,
Fighter
it looks impressive
it
for
looks
a Master
impressive.
System
Yeah.
game.
Street Fighter 2
Wow.
looks really impressive. It's got animations, like really good colors. It has like 8 characters. And that came out in 97.
Yeah.
Duke
Mortal
Nukem
Kombat-
3D, Genesis there,
Yeah.
99.
whoa.
So it just
God, it's
extended
crazy.
the lives of these systems, and there were still bottom shelf. Like the PlayStation 2 was still a hit there. It was out, but it was $1,200 US dollars equivalent. So these systems were always the bottom shelf ones, and there's all these knockoffs that came around, but it was able to compete with those. And so now Sega and Tectoy are still manufacturing these systems today. Their people know they're retro, and they're not making new games for them necessarily now, unless they're like big bootleg collections, But they exist.
That's so cool.
I want to do a feature on the longest gap between like a game and then a game getting a sequel. Like Blaster Master.
Yeah.
A Boy and His
That's
Blob's
actually
probably up there.
Ooh, that's
Kid
a good one.
Icarus.
Kid Icarus,
even
yeah.
Punch
Boy
Out's
and his
up there.
Bob, yeah.
Yeah, Punch Out was the NES and then the Wii, right?
Well, there was Super Punch Out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so that
But
was.
then there was some haunted house game that was on Atari that got a remake. Remember that?
Ooh.
Well, I know
That's
we
the
have.
big jump always.
gonna work on this.
1978 to 2016.
Could be bigger.
I know we have some Brazilian listeners, so if any of you have any stories about
Yeah, we'd love to hear those.
playing
first.
Master System games well into the 90s, we would love to hear those.
Yeah,
so
I want to
cool.
see your best Tech Toy T-shirt pictures
Yeah.
too. It's a funny old logo, and it's like you can see how you would be seeing that your whole life and knowing it as familiarly as the Sega logo.
Did you mention the Master System girl?
Oh yeah. So Sega officially licensed all this hardware throughout the years. So one of the things they did was they made these portable systems that didn't have a screen because that would be really expensive to manufacture. And so in Brazil they manufactured a couple spin-offs, and one of them, just like what you're talking about, line of sight antenna connected to TV. It would be like a pack-in controller, and it was wireless. And they put this out, and it was called it was some kind of portable Master System. Put cartridge in, play on your TV. Then they made one called the Master System Girl, which they just colored pink,
It's
packed
bright
in
pink.
some Disney games, and some
Yeah.
other stuff. And then the packaging looks really cool for it. It's like bright pink with purple buttons, and it was like a line of sight wireless controller that
Wow.
played Master System games. And that's from like '95 or something, way after the Master System came out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So cool.
And they all say
crazy.
Sega, and on them they're like totally official.
Yeah, Capcom. Next email is from Ross Arbor in Toronto, Canada. He says, as a 90s kid, my introduction to video games was GoldenEye 64.
Not bad.
Lately,
a
I've
pretty
been
good one.
wondering, whatever happened to James Bond games?
Yeah.
It seems odd in both business and fan service that Activision is sitting on a multi-billion-dollar license.
Wow.
Well, I did a little research, and it's not clear if Activision is still sitting
Yeah,
on
I
the
was gonna
license.
say,
This is
that
kind of a
doesn't make
rat's nest, right?
Yeah. So,
Bees nest.
first of all,
Beehive.
yeah.
Bees hole.
Rat's hive.
Before we get to James Bond
Ew.
games today, let's take a quick look back. This is a brief history of James Bond video games.
okay.
Does anyone know when and what the first James Bond
I
video
know what it
game
was. James Pond Jr.
I was
I
gonna
was
make
gonna
that
say
joke.
that too. Damn it, we're
Nintendo.
old.
That was not the first one.
Okay.
No.
Prove it.
He was a fish.
In 1982,
Wow.
there was a game the game is called Shaken Not Stirred. It's for the ZX Spectrum. It
I
was
like
only
that.
released in the UK.
The
Okay.
bartending game?
Well, you're James Bond with your martinis.
Is it,
That's how you drink
is it a
martinis.
knockoff?
No, I think it's officially licensed. And then in '83, James Bond 007 came to 2600, ColecoVision, Commodore 64, all those games.
Wait, that was the jump?
Yeah. What do you mean jump?
Oh, I see what you're saying. There is a game called James Bond.
Yeah.
And that was loosely based on the movies Diamonds Are Forever, Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, and For Your Eyes Only.
On Atari, very loosely
Yeah.
based.
In 1985, there were two games based on A View to a Kill. One was an action game, and one was a text adventure. They're both for the computers
I
at the
thought
time.
that text adventure might be neat.
In '86, there was a Goldfinger
cool.
text adventure released, and the box art for that is amazing.
Oh, man.
Look that up.
I
yeah.
bet Jared's played them all.
Yeah.
In 1987, there was a game based on Living Daylights. It was a platforming shooter game for computers. In '88, Live and Let Die was a racing game for computers. In '89, License to Kill was a top-down, vertical-scrolling action shoot-'em-up for computers. At the time, Computer Gaming World said it had a license to bore.
Oh, sick burn.
In 1990, there was The Spy Who Loved Me. It was a top-down shooter for
don't need a
computers
license to
and the Master System, which we were just talking
I
about.
suppose Spy Hunter was kind of and it was kind of a knockoff of 007,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Yeah, for sure.
Elevator
They had the
action
James Gunn
too,
theme
right?
in there. Yeah, elevator action too.
Spy versus
In
Spy.
'91, there was James Bond Jr. for NES and Super NES, which is
That was
based
like-
on the cartoon series.
Was
Yeah.
that supposed to be his son or him when
I
he
mean,
was
I guess so.
a young boy?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a
I don't
good
know the lore.
Brian's asking the important questions.
Yeah, sorry, hard-hitting journalism here.
In 1993, there
one
was James Bond: The Duel for Genesis, Master System, and Game Gear. That was the
That
first.
sounds cool.
That was the first James Bond game with an original story that wasn't based on the movies or the books.
Sure.
Then you have a big jump from 93 to 97, which is GoldenEye
Yeah.
on 64. 98, there was James Bond 007 again for Game Boy. And then 1999, the license went to EA. So they put out Tomorrow Never Dies on the PSX, which is a third-person stealth shooter.
They put out a few okay ones.
I remember the
EA,
Game Boy one, too.
EA put out James Bond games every single year for the next several years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2000 was The World Is Not Enough, N64, PSX, Game Boy Color. 2000, also that same year, 007 Racing was on PSX.
Cool.
Oh goodness.
Oh, that was
gracious.
weird.
Wait,
Yeah.
were any of those like shooters that were meant to be kind of a follow up for GoldenEye?
No.
They
didn't really ditch them
the
that
EA
way or
ones
anything?
kind
I mean, none of them were
They
made by Rare.
EA's
Yeah.
were several FPS games, but they didn't seem to be trading on. Like,
I just
the
remember
GoldenEye.
I just was trying to think like I missed those. So like at the time were those pitched as like, hey, remember GoldenEye? Here's the
I mean,
next.
I'm
Yeah.
sure Perfect
series.
Dark was. you
That
know.
absolutely
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. 2001 was Agent Under Fire. 2002
Oh, yeah,
was
I remember that.
Nightfire. So, like,
Nightfire is the one that I had.
that's when you
And
had.
it was
that was
fine. It
You're
was
in the
like a-
PS2, Xbox, GameCube era.
They
at
were
that
totally
point.
like these competent but forgettable. EA did all the Lord of the Rings games too, where it's like, yeah, these are fine.
Yeah.
I think I remember one of the things I hated about Nightfire was that there were multiple times where James Bond couldn't go over like a short fence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're an international spy.
All these games,
Climb,
like,
climb
like-
over the wall.
with the
Murdered 50
exception,
dudes to get here.
Yeah.
with the exception of GoldenEye, all these games, their reviews are like from 6 to
Yeah.
6 to high 7s.
Well, I was gonna
that's
say,
what
like,
they all got.
It's like you read a lot of. I mean, it's like when a director gets a movie license or a developer gets a classic game franchise, they're like probably sitting there being like, we don't want to let the fans down. But Rare was probably like, what could we possibly do? That's there's no legacy here. You know,
that's true.
It's interesting. I mean, Goldeneye. Like, maybe it's just because I'm a hardcore gamer, but like that term, that phrase, like, it's is it one of the only times that the video game has like eclipsed the movie? Like,
yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's weird, huh?
Yeah, that's probably true.
What about the Chronicles of Riddick?
maybe Riddick.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, the game's certainly better than the movie.
Witcher.
Witcher.
The game also came out GoldenEye came out years after the movie was
Yeah,
out.
well, at least 1 year because the game was so delayed.
Yeah. They were working on multiplayer, which was like tacked on at the last minute. And
That movie stinks.
Yeah, dude, I rewatched that movie maybe 2 years ago.
Most of the James Bond movies stink.
Yeah.
2003 was Everything or Nothing, which I don't think is based on a movie. 2004 is GoldenEye Rogue Agent, a game where you don't play as James Bond.
Yeah, don't.
You're just like another like MI6 agent.
Oh, wait a minute. Was that for the Wii?
No, that was PS2, Xbox, GameCube, and DS.
So were there?
We got a remake later.
Did they? Okay.
Oh, so there were 3 games with the word
I mean,
GoldenEye.
Yes.
So there's the remake, which
Yeah.
we'll get to.
Got
Yeah.
it.
The remake, but with we'll get. To
I had the DS version of Rogue Agent. It's a very bad
Yeah.
game.
In 2005, EA released From Russia with Love. And you guys, I was totally unaware of this. Sean Connery voiced James Bond in that game. And that was the last time Sean Connery played James Bond.
Oh my God.
In the 2005 game.
He also retired from everything shortly
yeah,
after
exactly.
that.
I
It's crazy.
vaguely remember him doing like some talking head interview, in some EA like and it was like it's like this really embarrassing weird clip of him being interviewed by somebody and like he barely seems to know what's going on or that he's in
Yeah.
a video game like
Yeah.
He was a dragon before that. He should be able to sort
That's
it out.
true.
Rogue Agent, where you play as a James Bond game, not as James Bond,
Yeah.
is almost as bad as a Batman show that doesn't have Batman in it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I hope they never make one
Surely
of those.
no one would ever do that.
From Russia with Love was EA's last Bond game, then the license transferred to Activision. It took a few years to make Quantum of Solace in 2008.
That game was okay.
Yeah, I think it was based on both Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace.
It was like a Uncharted knockoff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then in 2010 was the GoldenEye remake, which first was a Wii exclusive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Had
then-
a golden Wii Pro controller.
Yeah, but I don't think
Classic controller,
I don't think
yeah.
it sold very well, so they brought it GoldenEye remastered to 360 and PS3.
Like, what an insane world that we have a remake of GoldenEye the video game, not GoldenEye the movie, that retells the story of GoldenEye the movie, but it put Daniel Craig in
They
it.
replaced Pierce Brosnan with Daniel Craig.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, if I remember right, it is Daniel Craig. It's his
Yeah.
likeness and his voice.
So I remember
How do you get someone to agree to that?
The marketing around the GoldenEye remake was super weird.
Yeah.
First of all, like they went very hardcore nostalgia for all the N64 kids who grew
Yeah.
up with it. But they had these T-shirts that they gave out at press events that said "No Odd Job."
Yeah.
and it was just a picture of his hat. And
I have like at least 2 of those shirts.
that's so like I remember just like out of context, you would see a guy walking down the street with a picture of a shirt with a hat on it that said "No Odd Job," and you'd be like, "What's wrong with this man?"
I love those shirts.
Yeah, so it was really weird timing because that was 2010. The Wii had been out for 4 or 5 years. They're targeting people who have nostalgia for the original GoldenEye, but those gamers had moved on to Xbox and PS3.
Yeah.
They weren't playing their shooters on Wii, and they only brought it to
They
Wii.
just
It was
figured
crazy.
maybe, I guess that Nintendo was connected with the...
Yeah.
It's just an
Well,
insane
yeah.
situation. It's insane that they were able to strike that deal with Nintendo to begin with. Like
Yep.
it feels like one
Yeah.
of those things that should never have existed.
Well, you have to understand that era of the Wii. Well, they were like, "There's 120 million of these in the wild. How do we
Yeah.
get in on this?" And
Yeah.
the reality was that unless you were Carnival Games or like 4 other like
Yeah.
lucky games, that you didn't really get in there.
In 2010, the GoldenEye remake was a Wii exclusive. They didn't have a game, so in order to make sure they had a game for PS3 and 360, they released 007 Bloodstone for those consoles. That was the final game developed by Bizarre Creations.
That got really bad reviews.
yeah,
right?
the guys that made Geometry Wars.
Oh,
that was their final game.
It's very sad.
2012 was 007 Legends, which was the single-player campaign includes one mission from each of the 6 actors' eras. So you had every James Bond.
Smart idea.
That is a
I
smart
forgot
idea.
about that.
IGN gave it a 4.5.
Yikes!
So that was the last James Bond game. 2012, It is unclear who owns the license now. I'm not sure if Activision still has it. It's,
I remember reading
not.
it was like
I don't know why they'd sit on it for 5 years.
Sony had like the licensed movie distribution stuff and home release, but the game license is in different hands. And then like there's a parent studio that owns it, and then some people own like the character, but not the universe and all this other nonsense.
Dude, it's
Like,
always insane. Like, corporate America is insane, where, like, different companies for a long time had the rights to make games based off the Lord of the Rings books.
Yep.
And then games based off the Lord of the Rings movies. So there was...
Which one was Shadow of Mordor? Books?
Well, that's after all of this.
Oh,
This is, like, way back when the movies were big.
Remember there was like a Hobbit
There was a Hobbit game, but it had to be really careful. like, its
on
Shire
Xbox, I
couldn't
remember
look
that.
like the actual Shire
I mean,
from
Shadow of
the
Mordor
movies.
too, right?
That looks cool.
Like,
I don't think Shadow... I think you're right. I think
that was-
Shadow of Mordor only has
No,
book
because-
license.
No, I think it's the movies because like
It does
the
look like
opposite?
the
yeah, they have
characters.
the Gollum and that's like a sounded like actor.
Right.
Yeah, maybe you're right, but there's something
And the
weird
orcs
there.
look like.
Yeah.
They look like.
And
they
so,
look
but
this.
but even stuff like, I don't know, like Samsung and Apple compete viciously with each other for smartphones, but like the Apple screens are made by Samsung.
So it's also
they
like
make money off every iPhone sold.
So to complicate it more, so you've got Sony owning the movie rights for James Bond, or I believe it did at some point.
Yeah,
Microsoft owns Rare, which made GoldenEye widely regarded as the best 007 game.
Yeah.
And when Rare made the sequel the semi-sequel to 007, which is Perfect Dark, they ported over a bunch of levels because they owned the rights to the levels that they
games.
designed, but not the names of them. So things like the facility became the Felicity.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, totally.
That's really good.
The
I
level's
no,
called
this-
Felicity.
And so they
Wait,
were
you said Sony ended up owning?
the game
Well,
rights.
since Microsoft bought Rare, but it predates that.
Yeah.
So they couldn't make when
crazy.
Rare was making Perfect Dark, they didn't have the Goldeneye license anymore. They couldn't do anything with Goldeneye, but they still owned the game code. They owned the game code, but not Goldeneye. So the facility exists, and they had to call it Felicity
Yeah, so you can't
and like retexture it.
and then
stuff.
they ported Perfect Dark to Xbox 360
years
in
later.
HD, but GoldenEye has never been like formally remade or re-released outside of like that EA remake.
They had to
which is-
Craigify it.
Yeah, which is kind of a completely different game.
Craigway.
Yeah, it's very odd.
Yeah.
So what we really need is to get all of these people like on a retreat
Yep.
for the weekend, and
Like
just
the
have them all
Marvel
sit down.
movies when they finally got Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, guys,
They can't get X-Men though.
Yeah, that's true.
two people's bosses can get together and talk and figure this out.
Yes, that's really what it comes down to. So, I mean, for us to get like a proper GoldenEye remake or a new 007 game, it's going to have to take some very rich, powerful people to get together and sit around a campfire and get drunk.
But what do we got to do to get Aladdin on the Genesis, which is the superior version, back?
Is it
again
though?
Someday.
It
yeah.
is.
Okay.
I don't want to have this fight again.
Yeah, it is weird that like since like 1982 we got a James Bond game like almost every year since 1982, and now there's just
Yeah, and they're just like, now we don't want to
Yep.
do that.
I
You know,
guess-
the franchise is bigger than ever. We don't need to make those video games
Yeah, it's
anymore.
bizarre. I mean, the film franchise is kind of up in the air too, so who knows?
The SNES version of Aladdin might be pretty good.
It's great. I had it.
I don't like it.
you don't like it at all.
No, the Genesis one has just amazing graphics and such good music, and it's really fun.
They're both really
but
good.
the SNES one is a little bit bland. It was kind of made for kids. It's a little bit younger.
You were
It's
made for
good.
kids.
I definitely was not made for kids.
All right, now's the time on Game Scoop when we play Video Game 20 Questions.
Aladdin for
We
Genesis.
have a new accessory this week. You know, a couple
I thought
weeks.
that was just trash that got accidentally left on the table.
No, this is
Easter egg.
A fan sent this in for the show. A couple weeks back, I mentioned that my wife thinks it looks a little janky when I count on my fingers.
Because you only have 10 of them.
Yeah, and I have to start over again. But although when I mentioned that to the GameScoop audience, overwhelmingly people said they like it when I use the fingers. So I think I'll keep using them. But one of our listeners, Ransom Garcia, his name is Ransom
That's
Garcia.
awesome. That's a great name.
Says now you don't have to use your fingers for Video Game 20 Questions. Keep up the great work. It was very kind of him to send this.
That's what you counted at a bar show.
At least
Bar
for this episode, I will use this counter.
How does
here.
it actually work? Do you just tap
Yeah,
the
I just
little-
click
Do you see
this.
the numbers somewhere?
Yeah. Yes. There's. So we could go up to
Does it ding?
9,999 questions if we wanted to.
What is the context in which you would use that thing that many times?
I don't. Yeah.
Admission into a club.
Yeah, or like I mean that's a huge
yeah,
club.
that's a
Maybe
huge
like
club.
Woodstock. You're counting everyone going into Woodstock.
Yeah, maybe over 1,000's a lot.
Okay.
Counting, well, okay.
Video Game 20 Questions. Let the questioning begin.
In this game, can you see your character's hands?
Yes.
Damn it. Okay.
What?
So,
Why does that make you mad?
so it's just a weird starting
You
point.
can see your hand. You know, it's not a first person. Well, I guess you can see your hands in a lot of first person games.
It's just a weird starting point.
Is this game from before 2000, January 1st, 2000?
Yes.
Let's get the era.
Yeah, you do that.
See now the
So this is before January 1st, 2000.
So next we do 90.
Is this a console game?
yes.
Thanks.
Anytime.
No, it's good. It's like Russian roulette when you play with Brian.
Yep.
This game come out before January
That was
1st,
helpful.
1990.
No.
90s game.
90s console game.
90s console game, you can see your hands.
Yep. Are you ready to guess?
Was it?
Well, there's only been 5 of them, so.
The hands question's pretty bad.
Was this an exclusive on a console?
yes.
Ooh.
The click thing is making me nervous as hell.
Ooh.
Is there a smarter way to narrow this down than just by going by?
Just go exclusive, then you go Nintendo.
Yeah, was this exclusive to a Nintendo console?
No.
Oh, so now it's either.
So it's Sony or Sega.
Yeah.
Or, well, yeah, probably. When did the original Xbox come out? It won't be that.
Is this a platforming game?
No.
Damn it.
Is it a Sega game?
No.
Sony game.
Yes, don't ask that.
Is it
No,
a
it's
Sony
not
game?
a question. That's a statement.
You said it like with the British sort of like, you tilted at the
Maybe
end.
it's Crash
Sonic game.
Bandicoot.
Wait, but it's not a platform.
Not a platformer.
That's not a platform.
Yes, it is.
I would
You
call
be
that
jumping?
Endless Runner.
Nah, you be jumping in that game.
It ends. The level's end.
Is Crash Bandicoot a platformer?
It's not a question.
Yeah, yes. You jump on the things.
I don't know if I would qualify.
Wait, oh, you tell
Crash
me.
Bandicoot.
Whoa,
It's
whoa,
100%.
whoa, whoa.
What are you talking about? Of course, we didn't even
Like
know
the
what an
really
endless
jump on
runner
the
was back
platforms.
then. You can't retroactively give a game a new genre. Endless runners didn't start till like 10
It was a
years ago.
solitary racing game.
We didn't call it that. We called it a platform. We're like, it's an action jumping game. Damn it.
It's
You didn't
got-
call it a
if
platformer.
It's got bottomless pits that you have to jump from platform to platform.
Okay,
It's a
let's
platform.
not get lost in the weeds here.
It's a Sony exclusive.
Sony exclusive, non-platforming game where you can see your hands.
Was this game? Oh,
So I'm not going to be able to guess this. You guys are on your own.
Why?
Because I didn't play PlayStation.
Oh man.
You might
We can
know
ask
this
if
game, though.
Yeah, probably. Does it have sequels?
No. Well,
Clicked it.
damn it.
That's what sucks about this thing.
yeah, I get
Can you rewind it?
still speak.
Okay. So it's weird. Let me ask you this. Do you think a scenario is possible where a game
Here we go.
It's Metal Gear.
is a sequel and another game came after it, but that game's not a sequel to this game?
No, that's one.
You don't think that's possible?
Damon's got any questions?
2. No.
Wait, hold on. I'm trying to.
It is a sequel, and another one came out after.
I'm
but
trying
it's
to
not a
unpack what
sequel
you
to
just
the
said
middle
right
one.
there.
Yeah.
I got it.
So I don't know,
Okay.
but I don't know if that.
I mean, it sounds like
Here's
GoldenEye double.
Explain this to me. Explain this to me.
Here's the scenario,
Okay.
and I don't. This doesn't give us any. So a game came out.
Yeah.
A sequel to that game came out.
Yeah.
Another game came out in that franchise that's not a sequel to that second game. That's what Damon's describing.
Okay, well those are sequels, right?
So, yeah, but the question was,
It's not-
did it have a sequel?
It's not connected to the second game.
And
in
the
that
question was, did it
scenario.
have a sequel? And I said no. But another game did come out.
like a spin-off of some variety.
So would you be like Super Mario 1, 2,
So
and 3,
could it
and then
be-
Super Mario Galaxy? Like
Those
that's,
Could it be
those are
Parappa the
sequels.
Rappa with Jamie Lammy? Jammer Lammy?
I'm Jamie Lamey.
I'm Jamie
Is that the
Lane.
voice act?
Joe Milomi?
Bon Jovi Lovi.
How many questions are we at?
That was 9. That was 9.
Oh, man, son
That
of a-
train wreck was.
Disappointed he didn't laugh at Bon Jovi Lovi.
Bon Jovi Lovi's pretty good.
Where you've derailed.
Yeah.
Is this game rated M?
No. That's 10.
That's a good question. I
No one
like
can
that
keep
one.
up with how many
So-
questions are at.
Wait, so
Is it 3D?
Ooh.
Define 3D.
Do you move in 3D space in this game?
No.
Okay, so it's
So it sounds
2.5D.
like- yeah, like
that's actually
polygons
such a
or
huge
something.
hint.
Yeah, but it's not a platformer. What the Okay.
Fighting game,
Yeah,
but
fighting
a
game.
console exclusive PlayStation fighting game.
You see those hands?
Masters of Terras Kasi?
Yeah, what was that one that Damon loves Rival Schools? But I would call that a 3D game.
Yeah, that's 3D game.
That's a really big hint because there was very few 2D games on the OG PlayStation.
Yeah, keep in mind it's
But he's saying that the graphical style is
Could be in
3D for sure.
Well, yeah.
3D-ish.
So there was
Because
like
he
a,
had to
there was
clear that
there
up.
was a, there was
He doesn't know.
there was Tomba, there was Klonoa.
Yeah, those are
you're naming
platformers.
though.
That's true.
Yeah, and you have to be careful with fighting games because a lot of them, I think Mortal Kombat was rated M.
Do you want to just get the genre down and then just?
Yeah,
It might be too hard. Damon has a look
The
on his
only-
face
the
like
only-
that's gonna be hard.
The only 2D games I can picture on play, okay, so it could be Parappa the Rapper.
Yeah, of course.
It could be Parappa the Rapper.
Yeah,
Is it? What's a smart way to narrow this down?
I think we should go with like.
This is okay.
I mean, his hands are really big in that game.
I mean, what about if like
your
this is a
character-
character that's associated? Is there a character that's associated with Sony in it or something like that?
Did this character?
do we know if
Because
it's
he's a
first-
mascot.
Is Parappa the Rapper in their dumb fighting game?
That's what I was gonna ask you guys.
Yeah.
I think so, right? He had his weird super move. I might be making that up.
Yes. Yes.
Parappa was. I don't know if Parappa was in
I
it.
think he was in that game.
Does this game have a meter that shows you how good you rapping?
No.
There's that.
We're boned.
Yeah, man, I thought I was so clever there. I thought I had it. It could
It
be.
sucks because that would have really narrowed it down to
But
one
what
game.
about what about?
What if it's Jammer Lammy?
Yes.
Is this a music game?
Yes.
Oh. So wait. So
Wait a minute.
So it's Johnny Lammy. That's why. Oh man, I
Or it could
almost
be
completely
like I
screwed
don't
us.
know what some of these other games
you
I'm going to
rocking
say
in that
are.
game? You
but
rocking
there's
in that-
like Vib Ribbon and like.
Well,
all
there
these
was
other
Vib
weird
Ribbon
games.
and there was
Well,
what
there's
was the other
Guitar
one?
Hero.
Yeah, but that got a million sequels.
Oh yeah, that's right. And it's all multi.
And multi-platform. And that also wasn't on the OG PlayStation. That was
You
on
also don't
PS2.
see your hands in that game.
Is there a lamb in this game?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it Jammer Lammy?
Yeah, I probably gave it away. I probably gave it away with my whole explanation of because there was
No,
there
you
was
didn't.
Parappa the Rapper, and then there was Jammer Lammy, and then there was Parappa the Rapper 2.
Then after you said that, didn't I use the example of like Parappa the
Yeah.
Rapper?
Yeah, yeah, that's why I didn't know. I was hoping you guys would get back there and not just totally dismiss that. But yeah,
Man, the You Rapid meter almost completely.
you play.
helps this.
She's a guitar player.
Yeah.
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 There's
that
a really
was
good
great.
metal song in that.
If you hadn't gone with a different sort of like generic music meter type of thing, we would have had that.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Is this just a music game, or I was gonna ask if her character wears
Oh
a
yeah,
hat?
and I didn't mention that that game was suggested by Brian from Lynn, Massachusetts, and it was released in 1999. So it's right there on the cusp.
Wow.
Who is the
Thanks,
developer?
Brian. That was a good one.
Nona Anshaw.
Are they? Is Nona Anshaw still around?
Yes, the last name was a mobile game. Published by Sony, PlayStation exclusive. It is a Japanese game. It had single and multiplayer modes. It was a sequel, but did not have a sequel.
Japanese game. That was
Yeah.
wow.
I love those games.
I probably gave that one away, but I didn't know how to answer that question.
We needed the help.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good. I don't know
That's
if that-
one of 2 PlayStation games I own.
That's one of them.
Seriously.
I'm glad you
I
brought
have
that
and
up.
Symphony of the Night.
Those are
Yeah,
two-
it's
those
the
are
metal
great
song
games.
is like with a
Well, I don't
pilot,
know why I
right?
have him, Jimmer Lammy, though. You must have got it. I don't know why I have it.
I mean, it's a good game.
I looked at
just-
my PlayStation.
Also, the
collection,
3D
and I
game,
was like,
with
oh,
the 3D question mixed me up because like it's rendered in 3D, but they're like flat. They're supposed to be like flat cartoon characters. So I
I would
was
say
like,
two, yeah. Man, those were such great games. And what
Yeah.
people need to understand about like Parappa is like that was in an era where like music games weren't a thing. Like,
Yeah,
it's
it was
so
way
groundbreaking.
before
Like
the
this-
rhythm.
Yeah, rhythm
games,
like
yeah.
rhythm gameplay was brand new, and like the storytelling through song was really bizarre, and like the stories that they were telling, like waiting in line to go to the bathroom was one of the big Parappa songs, and like it was just a crazy. It's crazy that that's a thing that happened.
Yeah,
and
it's good.
existed.
It could only come from Japan.
Yeah, it came from Japan.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll use the clicker. I think it's helpful for people to see how many questions we've got.
How did you reset it?
I don't know how you reset it actually.
Oh, you don't.
Oh,
This
so
is
there's
it.
that. That
It's
would
a
be
one-time use.
Next
It's a
time,
one-time
40
use clicker.
questions.
Maybe it's that crank on the side.
Yeah, you can take it back to 0.
But it might be interesting to see that after a year,
Yep, it's
we
reset.
asked 400 questions or whatever.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Another
You
way
have
to
to
do
do some
that is
math.
just multiply the number of episodes by 20.
Well, it doesn't always. It took
You
us
don't always
15.
go to 20 questions.
What did we get to this time?
That was 15. Your guess was
Huh.
15, yeah. All right, I think that's all the scoops we have for you this week. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Sam. Remember, you can always reach us at the email address, gamescoop@ign.com. My name is Damon. This is IGN Gamescoop, and we're out.